So I just left the theater after seeing Captain America Brave New World, and if I'm speaking honestly, I thought the film was just okay. Now, the movie was your typical paint by numbers superhero flick, which was to be expected, with the primary plot revolving around a fragile peace between the United States and Japan. The film's secondary plots involve Sam struggling with trying to fill Steve Rogers' shoes, and now President Ross longing to reconcile with his daughter Betty from the Incredible Hulk film from 2008, which is this movie is tied loosely to, as well as the Eternals film from 2021. Now, the writing was rather pedestrian, featuring your typical plot progression that the Disney Marvel films have become known for. The good news being that the film was about 20 minutes shorter than these movies typically are. It has dialogue that is equally ordinary, but these films aren't about the talking, they're about that action, boss. And speaking of the action, I found it to be serviceable, all things considered, but with Sam having refused the super serum, it was difficult to justify some of the things that you watch take place in this movie, with Sam being able to easily handle fighting several opponents at a time, even though he has gear that has been enhanced by the Wakandans. Now, we do get an introduction to a pretty interesting Hulk villain in this one, which was a bit of a bright spot, but the moment the film depends on is the appearance of Red Hulk towards the end, which I'll admit was fairly worth the wait. Now, that being said, this film has its share of problems, most of them not of its own making. One, no matter how the writers may try, Sam isn't Steve Rogers. And I know that Falcon was Captain America briefly in the comics, but this isn't a comic book. And as the films go, there can only be one Cap. The other problem, and it's kind of a big one, is that the writers are trying to keep the Marvel torch burning here by adding yet another entry to what is becoming a fairly vast story with essentially no ending. And I think people are starting to get marveled out a bit, especially since the Varsity Squad has pretty much moved on at this point, leaving us with a lot of characters that we simply care less about. And the third problem, when you add to all that, the fact that Mackie put his foot in his mouth when trying to explain what Captain America meant to him during a recent interview, this film just doesn't make up for all that, which makes me worry a bit about the movie's box office potential. Now, my feelings, when all things are considered, unless you're a die-hard Mackie supporter, you can probably wait until this one hits streamers, as it's clearly a film meant to be a bridge to something much more interesting, like maybe Avengers 2.0, or maybe even the Disney version of the X-Men.